Once again, we sit down for a discussion we call Attempted Intelligence. This time we're going to lean on some of the discussions we've already had to inform an attempt to talk about the philosophical underpinnings of the Matrix series. I think the Matrix 4 is finished filming and coming out. The challenge with this conversation is I know the answer.
Okay.
So I'm definitely going to be leading this conversation. I obviously, because I'm the one that comes up with a lot of the concepts and I happen to have specific knowledge, I generally lead the conversations.
Fair enough.
Right, but I am leading for sure.
Okay.
Not just personality-wise, because
Right.
it's something that I might do,
Right.
or I've been accused of, and that's okay. Doesn't hurt my feelings, because I mean, shit, it's me, so, maybe I'll lean into it. But the philosophical underpinnings of the Matrix. So, before we do that, just a quick refresher on terms.
Okay.
Epistemology is...
I just saw this.
Okay.
I don't know the terminology I'm going to use, but I'm going to say the methods or science of understanding knowledge.
Yeah, theory of knowledge.
Theory of knowledge.
So essentially you could call it, I tend to call it theory of knowledge or theory of knowledge creation. The questions that would often be asked in association with it is what can be known, how can it be known, and who can be a knower.
Okay.
Right? So who can hold knowledge, right? The ontology.
Ontology.
In science.
In science. Is theory the correct term? Like if I say it's the classification system, or okay. All right.
Classification system. Philosophically, it is the study of reality. What is real? You have the bifurcation of people who believe that ideas are the most real things, because those are the things that are within you and only you experience them directly, versus realism, or objects are the most real things, so you have that bifurcation. Okay. In philosophy, the idea with an ontology is you have categories which will allow you to describe something as it is, and when that category is applied to something else, it will allow you to see if they are the same in that category or different. So it's the ability of essentially describing something, or the process of describing something with multiple categories to then define what is that thing and what is not that thing. So a construct would often have multiple categories that would allow you to know that it is that construct versus it is not another construct, or another construct is not it. Right? So it's the ability to discriminate between things based on categorizations and descriptions. Axiology, I don't think you'll remember this.
I do not.
Fantastic. Axiology is essentially the value of the researcher or researchers. It's the values. They're always implied, so why did you choose those categories? Okay. Because those categories are of value to me.
All right.
Right, that's why. So, the Matrix.
Okay.
Is there a story that you remember hearing, an ancient story, that describes somebody who is looking at something that they believe is real, but really, realistically it's just a projection, and then they turn around and they see something else, and that's reality?
I may mix it up, but is it Plato's allegory of the cave?
Yes, it is. Okay. Most of the time, when people look at the Matrix, they see the cave allegory.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's, you're in this, you're born into this situation, this is all that you know, therefore it is reality, until you start to identify cues that something's wrong, and then you get peeled out because you made the choice and Morpheus is awesome. And then you get peeled out and you're like, ah! That's what most people see, and then it is your responsibility as a person who's seen reality to come back and tell the others. Yeah. But usually when you tell the others, they just tell you to bugger off.
Right.
So that's what most people see. That's not it.
Okay,
that is not it at all. Is there an epistemology that you are aware of? So, okay, maybe let me backtrack to set the stage a little bit more.
All right.
What is the role of humans in the Matrix?
They're farmed as a source of fuel.
So they're fueling the machines.
Yes.
Right? They've been turned into batteries. They're would you accept the term biopower?
Yes.
Now, have you heard the term biopower somewhere else? I don't think you have.
Not really.
Okay,
No.
fair enough. It's an interesting term. I may misdescribe it.
I've heard biofuel, but not biopower.
Yeah. I think that's usually. Is that not usually corn?
Yeah, it's like when people reuse like old grease.
Yeah. It's like in some places it's poop turned into methane.
Yeah.
But okay, so there's the idea that they're being farmed, so they're feeding the machines.
Right.
The machines are the thing, but in order to continue feeding the machines have to basically give them a vision of reality that they'll accept and that they don't get unhappy with. Is that fair? There's a very particular individual that railed against this, and I'm almost 100% sure that you don't know who it is, but if you knew who it was, you'd immediately clue into what this epistemology is. So you've got this idea that the wool's being pulled over their eyes. So it's like, how many realities are there in the Matrix?
How many realities are in the Matrix?
That you can identify without
the Matrix, the movie, or the Matrix, the representation in the movie?
The representation in the movie. How many realities are there?
Well, there should be one. Like the Matrix itself?
No, so the experience of reality, how many experiences of reality do you see?
Oh, there's multiple,
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say that two are clearly identifiable in the Matrix and out of the Matrix?
Yes.
Now, would you also accept, if I were to give this to you, the construct when Morpheus and Neo are fighting, and it's like, you think that's air you're breathing?
Yeah.
Stop trying to hit me and hit me. Right? Could that be considered another reality? But it's kind of meta because he already knows.
Yeah.
And he's not fully broadcasting, but his sensory system has been so taken over that it's an all-encompassing experience.
Right.
So there's two definite realities, maybe a third.
Okay.
So what epistemologies that you can remember by name include multiple realities?
Constructivism?
Yep. Is there another one? Constructivism has the abstraction step. Do you remember that?
Yes.
They'll see what's the same between the multiple realities.
Right.
Okay. Is there another one that has multiple realities?
Not that's coming to mind.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll gloss over that for now. Okay. So constructivism, multiple realities, right?
Is it post-positivism?
Post-positivism can be argued to include multiple realities on account of the fact that they will use the methods of the constructivist as well as the positivist.
I remember you saying that.
Yes. So you can argue that. That's fine. But it's another one. Don't worry for now. So you've got multiple realities, right? The key isn't necessarily the multiple realities. The key is the power dynamic.
Okay.
So who's in power? The humans or the machines?
Well, the machines.
The machines are in power.
Right.
The machines are convincing you that you're happy.
Right.
And if you only knew, then you would, come back out and try to overthrow the machines.
Right.
Fair? Then you get into the further Matrix movies, and you meet the architect, and the architect's like, we couldn't balance the equation vis-a-vis, therefore, concordantly. Right. And you're seeing that they recognize that they need to allow some resistance to occur. Otherwise, the Matrix crumbles. Right? So they program Neo. Right? Now, it gets really interesting because you're like, he's the one. And it's like, no, he's Neo. Right? And then you end up seeing the person who actually breaks the Matrix, or is going to break the Matrix, is Smith.
Agent Smith.
So there's some weird stuff there. But anyways, everybody's convinced it's Neo, and then you get this little quirk, and you maybe don't pick up on it. But the power dynamic, the machines are in power. They're convincing you they have to allow for resistance.
Right.
Otherwise, it just falls apart. They can't maintain their power without letting resistance happen. So they give you the illusion of resistance, but they can just get you anytime. So it's the power dynamic. Okay. The message of the Matrix is possibly that all things are about power dynamics.
Okay.
It's always there, whether you notice it or not. So you just always believe it's there. Is there an epistemology that always believes that everything is an exercise in uneven power dynamics? That you can recall the name of? I'll just goose you by saying it's the one that I have the most problems with.
I'm trying to think of, is it postmodernism?
That's it. The Matrix is like a postmodernist fever dream.
Okay.
It's the best way to put it. The postmodernism is superficially contains all of the steps of the philosophy of science. It contains an epistemology, or a theory of knowledge, or a theory of knowledge creation, that what can be known, that what can be known is the experience you have, who can know it, you and only you, which means there's multiple realities, right? Now, all of those, at all times, the power dynamics at play, whether you can directly sense it or not, right? So postmodernism essentially believes that everything is about power.
See, and this is why I didn't suggest postmodernism earlier, because I remember you saying that the individual kind of creates their own reality, but I forgot that there's multiple individuals.
So, and this is the thing, because you don't necessarily know about certain individuals within the progression of postmodern thought, that it's not going to come immediately. But so I think to tell the story, you have to do it as these distinct things.
Right.
Where it can't be each person has their own matrix, right? Because they have to make it seem normal enough to humans. So there's this guy, Herbert Marcuse. He was convinced that, he was in the 60s, he was essentially convinced that there's, he was basically very concerned with why there wasn't a communist revolution in the West, and he was convinced that we were living these terrible lives and people were just being lulled into feeling happy, but they weren't really happy with their TVs and their conveniences and their cars and their houses, that they were not happy, they just didn't know it.
Right.
So you're not happy, you just don't know it because you're plugged into the matrix.
But, yeah.
So there's that part. He's not the one that really did it. There's this guy, Baudrillard. Baudrillard wrote a book called Simulacra and Simulation. So essentially, it's the hyper-real.
Okay.
So you start off with me and you walking through. There's somebody else has used this as an example, and I'm basically pulling from it just to use it because I think it's a good example. His name is Vocal Distance.
Okay.
Right? Interesting guy. Right? I'm sure that's not his actual given name, but it's what he goes by.
Okay.
So me and you are Roman centurions walking through the field. We eat a strawberry.
Okay.
It tastes like a strawberry.
Okay.
Right? Do all strawberries taste the same?
No.
No. Okay, so there's a flavor. Then somebody figures out how to make strawberry essence and inject it into other things. So strawberry candy. Do all strawberry candies more or less taste the same? Well, from a company.
From a
company, right? Because they're using the same recipe. So it's not strawberry. It's strawberry-like. It's a simulation of strawberry.
Right.
And then, there's no more wild strawberries, so we can't get them. And the only thing that we know is
the artificial.
It's the artificial strawberry. So that's a simulacrum. It's like realistically, it's more real than real. That's the realest strawberry that you know. Right. So I've cut out a few steps in his thing, but it's the more or less idea. The matrix is hyper real. Right? It's more real than real.
Well, I was going to say similar to Cypher.
Yeah.
I don't know the difference between real happy and fake happy. Yeah. Just make me forget and let me be the happy that's there.
Yes. Yeah. So he's the one who goes back in, but you get the resistance. So Marcuse's idea was if we could just convince everybody, if we could break society so that everybody could see how unhappy they were, they'd revolt.
Okay.
Right, now the other thing is, do you remember how Neo went and saw the person and he had to hide the thing in the book? There was the hollowed out book in number 1 before he even meets Morpheus. He gets the secret. He knocks on the door and gets the thing and put it in the hollowed out book. That's simulacrum and simulation. The book is there. So people will often superficially grab the cave allegory, but it's really like a postmodernist fever dream. Now the interesting thing, I need to be fair in what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Are you aware of what the Wachowskis the process that the Wachowskis have gone through recently in their human lives?
Well, I heard that there was a gender alteration. Yeah.
I cannot sit here and ascribe why they did it.
Okay.
I can say that it occurred.
Right.
Postmodernism basically just doesn't believe in consensus.
Okay.
Rejects traditional concepts, all whatever.
Right.
There you go. It is difficult to identify people who have transitioned genders, who will publicly speak about it, who are not heavily informed by postmodernism and its descendants.
Okay.
Right. So, I'm not saying that one causes the other. I'm not saying that everybody's like that. I'm saying that when you are able to identify people and they will speak in public,
right,
they are very heavily informed by postmodern thought. They may not see it that way, they may not identify it that way, but the Wachowskis individually, if they were able to include simulacrum and simulation, it is very likely that they're postmodernists. For whatever set of reasons.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. But no, The Matrix is postmodern. So The Matrix is really interesting because when you and I both saw it in 1999,
right,
this is awesome. It's an awesome movie. It's fantastic. Right. It smuggled a philosophy.
Yeah.
And then that starts to creep in like a brainworm, and you start to look around and you're like, yeah, they just got me being a supreme materialist and down with the system.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like, I can see why you could come to those conclusions. I don't know if you've heard me say this to you before. The world tends to work very well, or at least the economy as a concept tends to work very well when you have a lot of people impulse buying. And, when they are willing to spend whatever money they have on stuff. Whatever stuff that might be. Experiences, trips, clothes, retail therapy, gadgets. And in order to keep that going, what must you do? You must innovate.
Right.
So consumer behavior, an argument can be made that consumer behavior heavily drives innovation. Right? So if you like the stuff you've got, greed is to some degree implicated. Greed and sloth, consumerism.
Right.
Fantastic special effects in a movie so that you can have a postmodern fever dream is because of consumerism. Right? It's very hard to divorce those things. I can't tell you that it's absolutely direct one-to-one, one happened and the other happened,
right,
but the innovative process needs a drive. If we're all completely content with whatever we've got and we're all producing exactly what we need, I don't know if special effects happen, right? There's some drive that likely needs to be explicitly present or even implicitly present. So it becomes a very interesting thing to me. I don't know that you necessarily sit around and think about postmodernism and positivism and postpositivism and constructivism often, aside from you and I talking.
Not necessarily until you give me a topic where it applies. But it does pop up more so since our conversations because I see different perspectives and conversations and things will pop up.
Is it helping you understand stuff that would be previously annoying and confusing?
Yeah, I'm definitely less frustrated when I'm
when you're aware.
When I'm faced with those kind of different perspectives, and I'm now aware that I can define and recognize, or at least classify those things and understand them as those things.
Yeah, it's descriptive of what's present. It's prescriptive of how you can do stuff. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's the only way.
It just I enjoy it because it gives me more options than I had before.
Yes, more tools.
Yes.
Right, greater tool belt.
Yeah.
The challenge that I have, I still love the Matrix movies. Fantastic movies.
Yeah.
I'm not being negative about them.
Right.
I'm just saying that something that was fantastic and came about because the tools were present, and those tools were likely created through very consumerist, capitalist behaviors, is being used to smuggle in postmodernism. And it's trying to do it in a way where only if you know. Right, and then it's also telling a story about the triumph of humans and the triumph over the machines, and so the machines and the Matrix basically are parading as your consumer-based life.
Right. And then
this is difficult to deal with.
And then Neo kind of represents like the free will to like break from that type of thing.
Maybe. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know that I can do that well right now.
Right.
Or follow that line well right now.
Right.
No. The challenge that I have with postmodernism and other of its descendants is that ontologically, so the classification system. So have you ever done something, you've opened a document or tried, or opened something that you have to fill out and there's already something filled out?
Yes.
You're like, no, that shouldn't be there.
Right.
Like, you mean I can't do this if that's not there, but it's inappropriate for it to be there.
Right.
That's something that's a priori, right? So a priori essentially means that which can be known without sensing.
Right.
It's a classification system that's already been described. It's a box already filled out, and it can never be erased.
Right.
Postmodernism, you can never erase that everything's about power. You're not allowed.
Right.
If you cannot erase it, how can you detect when it is there or when it's not there? You can't detect the difference. It's just always there.
But
it's an autofill.
But that's part of the classification system, is recognizing things that are the same and recognizing things that are different. And if it never changes.
Yeah. So this is why I have trouble with it.
Okay.
Right? Because ontologically, it's omnipresent. It is not allowed to leave.
Right.
Right? Where I would suggest that is a show. So the reason that I would say that postmodernism and its descendants are able to parade as scientific is because they have an axiology, they have values. It is implied by the omnipresence of power dynamics in their ontology and their classification system, and epistemologically, they believe there are many truths, and all of those truths must be dealt with before anything's okay, and they all involve power. So power dynamics have to be gone, right? You have to eliminate them, but if you all believe they're always there, you can't eliminate them.
Right.
It's autofilled.
So you just accept it as an autofill? Yeah.
No.
Well, no, I just mean like they do. Like,
no, they don't. They think that it's always there and it shouldn't be.
It's always there and shouldn't be.
That's why they're always fighting.
I was going to say, that cause conflict, but okay.
Yes, it does. That's why you see it in the world. That's why you see those that believe that power dynamics are always present are telling you that the government is always doing this, or that you have people seated in academic chairs trying to tell you that academia is prejudicial on every level, and that the fact that they're in that academic chair doesn't show their ability. The fact that they're not on another higher rated chair shows discrimination.
Right.
Like, oh, okay.
Right.
So the inability to sense when that thing is not there because it's always present. Right. So it's smuggled it in. Now, if you've watched The Matrix, and then it just gives you a little brain worm, and you start to think like, yeah, down with the man. I don't think it did that to anybody. I don't think there was like a rash of political activism in relation to The Matrix. I think it was candy. Right. It was great candy, great movies, fantastic. But they attempted to smuggle that in.
I see that.
Now, I don't expect you to have a coherent how does that make you feel? I think it's just.
Well, the one thing that I was thinking about is as an outsider, we're kind of looking at this just thematically as a movie. But I was thinking, if we were in the movie, the idea of the Matrix, would it be positivism in the movie where there's one reality, so like Morpheus is trying to sell this one reality, going, this is reality, everything else is not real?
Not as such. That's not the motivational structure. You could make the argument, you could classify it that way, but the motivational structure is Morpheus is the one that gets it, and he knows that you're unhappy.
Okay.
And he's breaking you free. He's the one teaching you how to break the Matrix.
All right.
Fair enough?
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Bottoms?
Peace.